or something like that. And then all these meetups across the country, around the world, actually. I've been to London, Singapore, New York. This is probably my third one in the Denver area. And so that's how I found out about it.
Okay, great.
You are in the Denver area, right?
Yes, I am. Yep. Yes. So yeah, we are based in Denver, and we do primarily SEO and marketing, WordPress development and design, including logos and brand marketing. In one of our last meetings, we had a great presentation on brand marketing. And so today we are going to talk about SEO. And let me share my screen here so that we can get started here. Okay, let's see. Okay, can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
All right, good. Yep. Excellent. Okay, thank you. So today we are talking about SEO for the 2020s. And to introduce you to myself, my name is Ryan Masterson. I am the CEO and co-founder of Green Hat Web Solutions. We're based in Denver. My focus is on user interface, user experience, design, and SEO and marketing. We've worked in the web development, or I've personally been in web development since 1997, and I have been partnered or worked for or partnered with several different SEO and internet marketing agencies here in the Denver Boulder area, including Volume 9, Blue Moon Digital, and Room 214. So today, so actually, I forgot to mention one thing. So this is an interactive workshop. We are excited to be doing workshops on Zoom. This is kind of a great new opportunity for us to meet new people. And so we're going to try to offer at least 2 workshops a month. And for right now, at least, they are going to be, the design of them is they're intended to be interactive. So right now we have a small enough group that I do welcome questions as we go. You are welcome to ask your question. One thing that I would ask is if you're not talking, if you can put yourself on mute. So that I hear actually some background noise right now, even if you could just put yourself on mute while you're not talking, but then please feel free to ask me questions. You know, one of the opportunities, or one of the nice opportunities about this workshop here is that you can ask me questions. So, you know, I know there's lots of good resources online for watching videos on SEO. Here is your chance to actually ask someone some questions. And so that's kind of what I intend this to be. So feel free to ask as we go. All right, so what we're going to talk about first is which SEO techniques no longer work, things from the past that people aren't doing anymore. Then we're going to talk about what are some new SEO techniques. And we're going to talk a little bit about trends in social media because it does influence SEO a little bit. Then we're going to talk about snippets in the expanded SERP, and the SERP stands for Search Engine Results Page. And we're going to talk about how or why and how to target these snippets. And then I'm really excited to show you this slide about so what really matters in SEO. There actually has been some analysis lately that or a particular study that I'm a real big fan of, a survey of billions of websites. And so it's a good, very recent understanding of what really matters in SEO. Then we're going to talk a little bit about one particular technique called EAT, or expertise, authority, and trustworthiness. And then about what are some big things coming for the future. Okay, so to get it right into it, which SEO techniques no longer work? Link in article directories is one. This means that when you, in the past, okay, everyone knows that backlinks is really important, and that is still very important. But the way to get backlinks is really important. Maybe in the past, you could have just found all these kind of link directories, article directories that were of low quality. And you know, people, you can submit your website for free. That is actually not recommended now. We don't recommend that because that can get you marked for improper link building. And so stay away from those. However, if it is a paid directory, maybe, or a very high quality directory, and they do exist. There are some directories that do exist. You can consider that. Okay, exact match domains. This means that it no longer matters what your domain name is. This is if your business is selling tennis shoes, it doesn't matter if the word shoes is in your domain at all. You could call your domain skippy.com, and then you can sell tennis shoes without any keywords in it. And it doesn't matter. You don't need to have any keywords in your domain. Keywords, yeah, go ahead, sure.
Sorry, I have a quick question. When
Yes.
you're talking about the link and article directories, what about utilizing tools such as Yext? Do you find those to still be effective and helpful?
Okay, well, so thank you for asking that question. There actually is some proper ways to do it. So I personally don't use Yext, but Moz Local can provide services where it's submitting your your link, your business information to various local directories of higher quality. Also, there's a service called White Spark, and they're based out of Canada. And you can actually pay them, like, for example, $200, for example, will get you, I believe they charge around $5 per citation. And what they do, they have a team that mainly goes out and builds these. So yeah, backlinking is very important, and that's a reality of the game. We just have to be careful how we do it. So they'll send you like a report of all the websites that they add your link to. So, so I would say that don't ever do anything where you are just kind of suspicious about it, or where you can't see the links. You need to know where they are. Okay. All right. Next is about keyword stuffing. You don't need to unorganically or add in keywords to your page. Keywords are very important, yes, but you don't stuff them. Reciprocal linkings, which when two sites link to each other. A flat URL structure is when there is your website basically has a domain name, and then every page is basically just follows that. And then even like the actual navigation of it too is kind of like every page is linked to each other. That actually is not recommended. What we recommend now is you kind of help Google and your users both by having a cluster, and you want to have like your main page. So, and then you might have some smaller pages from that. You don't necessarily need to link to every page from the menu. Okay, and indiscriminate guest blogging, exact match anchor text, pages for every keyword variation. Okay, this means that in the past, it was recommended that you need to have a page for every single keyword variation. So again, to kind of use my example, if you're selling tennis shoes, you might create a page for red running shoes. Then you might create a page for red gym shoes, athletic shoes, and for the purpose of just trying to get all those keyword variations. Now, if your products really do differentiate, then of course you can make different pages for that. But if you have just basically like one product, you don't need to have many pages with every single keyword variation. The reason is because Google and other search engines now are smart enough these days that they get it. If you're searching for red tennis shoes, that maybe red gym shoes, if the page is red gym shoes, Google understands that also applies. So you don't need to have every keyword variation. And lastly, you don't need to do paid links because that will raise a flag. Any questions before I move on?
Yeah, I'm curious about for the implications for e-commerce, because I've done a lot of e-commerce stores, and that effect of red athletic shoes, red white laces athletic shoes, like the permutations create thousands of category pages. You're saying that Google is actually smart enough to rank red tennis shoes and red gym shoes side by side.
That is correct, Brian. Yeah, okay. So what you can do is, I will touch briefly on this here, but one strategy is, okay, so what we want to avoid is duplicate content. This is really kind of what this is what the purpose of it. The reason why we want to avoid pages for every keyword variation is that we want to avoid duplicate content. If you have a page for every single variation that you have, but really it's all the same products, then that is going to be flagged as duplicate content. And what you're doing, the problem with duplicate content is you dilute your own SEO value. Basically, you're competing against yourself. Your own pages are competing against themselves. So what we really want to do is we want to be a little bit more clean, a little bit more focused. You have your product, great. And then add the keywords to that, but you don't have to be so paranoid about adding every single variation to that, because these days Google gets it, and the penalty or the disadvantage of it having so many pages is that you're diluting your own SEO value.
In the terms of using it for e-commerce, shouldn't you be using a rel canonical on all of the different variations?
So yes, okay, that is another strategy too. So you can have different variations, and what you can do is you can only tell Google using canonical tags that like this is the only page. Also, you can use your sitemap.xml to basically hide or request no indexing from all the other variations if you want. Like if there's, from like a user perspective, if it's good to have many different variations, because like some people might need that, but yet at the same time, you don't want to have all these variations and duplicate content being indexed by Google. This is where you can use sitemaps and canonical tags to specify which page to index and which pages not to index. Okay, so what are some new SEO techniques? All right, well, one of them is there's more and more SEO experts out there who talk about don't just write to get stuff out there, but instead research to find a gap that you need to fill and write it. I can give you a really good example of this. Back in the day, back when I used to work from some other SEO agencies, the idea of what and the recommendations that they would give to clients is like, okay, you need to be writing 1 blog post a week, maybe 2 blog posts a week, 300 words, doesn't matter. Just get it out there, get as much as you can. And it was like the shotgun approach. This no longer works. This is what people used to recommend, but you should not be doing this anymore. Some people still are, because sometimes old habits die hard. So instead, you need to be a little bit more focused. And instead of focusing on how many how many blog posts you could write per week, you need to focus on the quality and if there's an opportunity for that. I actually tell clients now, I recommend, no, just 1 a month. Make it a really good one. Oh, maybe 1 a month is actually too much. Okay, no problem. Do 1 every 2 months, one every quarter. 1 awesome post that fills the gap every quarter. This is better than the old strategy of just shotgunning it, where you just write as many small stuff as you can. And we'll get into some reasons why on this. I do actually have some other posts about this. The other idea here is that there's a new trend to recycle old content. So what you can do is, this is a particularly useful if your website has hundreds of pages, hundreds of posts, and some of them are getting very little traffic. You should go ahead and kill them. And you can even let them 404. You don't even have to redirect them. Now, I know that though some people might disagree with me on that one, and that's fine. But basically, the point though is that like you need to prune your website just as you would prune a tree. Having many old posts, hundreds of pages, where many of them are getting very little traffic, and that may be relative. But when you just look at Google Analytics, you can find out which little for you. And actually, though, I wouldn't be surprised if you have some pages getting less than 1 or 2 or 3 visitors or sessions per month. You should kill them. They're hurting you. You need to prune your website. And then, but the good news though, is that it's not work lost. You can actually reuse that content. So don't repost the exact same thing. But what you can do is take that content, edit it, modify it, and then repost it as a different post at a different URL with a different heading. But again, though, improve it, make it good, fill a gap, write for a need, not just to write.
I had a question kind of just on that.
Yes,
so,
please.
So you said recycling old content. So like instead of like let's say we have so we use WordPress and we have a blog post from 2 years ago, and we wanted to edit it, update it. You're saying that it's better to remove that post completely and then post a new URL instead of just making changes directly to that old post?
Yeah, thank you, Shiro. It depends on if it's being used. That's the answer to your question. Like, you can be a really old post, and if you still get sessions to it, then just update it for sure. You know, it's great. It all depends though if it's really being used or not, and you can know that by looking at your Google Analytics, your statistics. If it has very low user sessions, then don't even try editing it. Don't bother with it, because Google has already decided that it's pretty much worthless.
Gotcha.
Or yeah. So, and then yeah, good question.
Hey, can you I don't disagree with you, but can you describe how having the old content that's not getting traffic to it, not getting page views, how that hurts you in SEO?
Yeah, thank you, Dan. I would say that basically we need to tell. These days, some websites have so much content that it kind of gets back to what I was saying earlier about the keyword variation. This really relates to that same thing. That my goal with this recommendation is to prune my concern is that to have this duplicate content, and that where you're basically diluting your own SEO value. And so so this is a case where, like, if you have some really old content, my guess is that it's not because one of the reasons why it's not getting much views is not because it's just worthless, but because maybe you have other pages on your website that are better and that are performing better. And so now this may not be the case, but that is kind of where my reasoning comes from. What do you think about that?
What if we improve the old blog post rather than creating a new one? Will that be helpful?
I'm sorry, say the first part of your question. I missed that again.
Yeah, I was saying rather than creating a new blog post, you just improve the existing one. Which is already there, some old blog post. Will that help?
Okay, yeah, I think that really it goes back to the other answer that I said right before, Dan, where if that page is already getting some traffic, if it's already getting some visibility in Google, then yes, go ahead and just edit that. Leave the URL the same and just make it even better. But if it's not getting any sessions at all, I personally recommend to just start over. And by start over, I mean just getting rid of that page, either 404 redirect or 404 and let it 404, or put a 301 redirect on there, try some new version. And actually, you know what? I do take that back. If you are creating a new version of it, like the same content, then I think a 301 redirect is actually a good idea. So the only time to use like a 404 maybe is if you're getting rid of an old post with no plans to revive that. So yeah, that's the answer to the questions. Like, if it's getting some sessions already, then sure, yeah, go ahead and just edit it, make it better. All right, some trends in social media. So chat bots and live chat are becoming the norm. And this is something that you can install on a website. There are many good plugins available for this. For example, if you use WordPress, you can add some live chat features, and it's real nice. Also, social messaging is becoming even more important than social media. This is more people are using it. And so if you're able to talk with your clients via these tools, that also is a good idea. And let's see, I'm going to mention too that video is still like the most popular content type, and YouTube is the world's second biggest search engine. This isn't necessarily new news, but it is to say that, videos are still very popular, and especially like Snapchat and Instagram are very popular in the younger generations. That if you're looking to do some marketing in some of these social media or expand some of your digital marketing, YouTube, Snapchat, Instagram are some growing services that you could target. Video in particular is very hot, and that's not going away.
Ryan?
Yes.
What about TikTok? Can you talk about that for a little bit?
Yeah, TikTok is like a service that is becoming very popular indeed. And I believe it only allows 15-minute video or 15-second videos. And so, yes, that is becoming very popular. I think actually, in fact, that I could even add the word TikTok to this. I think it's just as relevant as Snapchat and Instagram. So Google has time and again said that they deny that likes improve search rankings, but actually studies continue to suggest otherwise. Here's a link farm, or basically a farm in China that they're getting likes. They're basically providing customers with many, many likes on their social media sites. Google hates this because they don't like fraudulent activity like this. Let me pause this. But the reality is that it happens. So there are click farms available. And this is something that Google is really concerned about, or they don't like. But yet, and they say that the number of likes on social media doesn't impact search rankings, but studies suggest otherwise. So in other words, the point is that I'm not recommending necessarily going to use a click farm at all. But what I am recommending is that, yeah, search engines or social media, you do have an opportunity in social media to look into some of that. All right, so now I'm going to talk about snippets and the expanded SERP. The SERP, again, stands for Search Engine Results Page. Okay, now this is actually, it's so cool to watch the evolution of this. Back in the day, the search engine results page used to be very small. It used to be just for 10 top links. And then that was kind of it, there was else. But these days, there is so much additional information being added to the SERP. We have, for example, in this example, stuffed pizza, not only do we have just normal web search, we have images, maps, shopping, videos. They all relate to your keyword. Up at the top, you have snippets that may include like recipe. You have maps. Actually, that's one. Oops, actually, is my internet connection okay? Can you guys still hear me? Okay.
Kind of comes and goes, but you're back now.
Oh, sorry about that. I will try to improve that for the next meeting here. So, all right.
It's way better, honestly, than the guy I was on with just like half an hour ago. So,
okay.
yeah, you're above the bar.
Right on. Right on. Good to know. Okay. What I'm showing here on this slide here, that's just the top third of the page. Here on the left-hand side, this is the second third of the page where we have these kind of snippets where you can expand them. Where basically it's trying to help people like figure out what they even want to ask. Then they have videos. You have some of the organic search results, but even in these organic search results, we still have other things now. We have like ratings. We have sometimes you have things such as reviews. In this case too, there's not like a review, but you can have like a number of reviews. And then down the bottom, there's even discover more places. Then you even have related searches. All three of these slides here is from one SERP. And the point is that it's growing a lot. Google is trying to answer more and more questions immediately just from the SERP without actually sending the traffic to your website. So since you know that this is happening, the question is how do we take advantage of this? And let me actually tell you a little bit about, first of all, before I get into like how we can try to work on this, let me talk about why you should. So when I was kind of preparing for this, I actually was just looking for top SEO strategies. And the top organic searches or top organic items were the backlinko, Neil Patel, and single grain. But actually, you know what? And by the way, this backlinko page and this Neil Patel page is awesome. I love them both. They were both really good. But here's the thing about it. There was actually something above. This is really here. This slide is really what I saw up above my organic rankings. And this was a page on that from HubSpot, how to create SEO strategy for 2020. So although HubSpot page was not ranking organically in the top 4 positions, it had a featured snippet above the top 4 organic rankings. And when I clicked on this page, it was horrible. I think that this is like a really small screenshot, and I know it's really hard to read, but it's just like the type of strategy that it gives is very beginner level, which isn't necessarily bad, but it's like very it's overly simplified. It's like wow, you know, and good job for HubSpot for stealing all this traffic. And so this is what, and so even if you don't rank organically in like the top position, the point is that it's possible using featured snippets to get above some of that organic traffic. HubSpot, they got it, they did it. How did they do it? Well, they did it by taking advantage of snippets and making this page that worked really good for snippets. What they did here is they created a UL, or an unordered list, at the top. Google's featured snippets love unordered lists. So this list here at the top is like a list of 9 items using the LI tag, and they were able to, and then like down below were some of the, it goes into more detail about these things, but just with this UL tag, they were able to kind of get this opportunity to be in a rich snippet position, or featured snippet. I mean, that's not the only thing they did. I shouldn't simplify it down that much, but the point is that snippets are an important, or a good strategy to consider when you're planning your SEO for 2020. Where featured snippets rank. So basically, this 30% of them are organically in the #1 position. However, that was just not the case in the HubSpot example that I just showed. The HubSpot example may have been like may have represented the 6.1%. And it may have been in the 5th position here, but because it was featured as a snippet, it was able to appear above the organically ranking items. How to take advantage of these? Yes,
hey,
go ahead.
Quick, on that last screen.
Yeah.
So was the percentage, was that the click-through rate percentage?
I believe, no, actually, I believe this is the percentage of where they actually work, like the featured snippets, because like, for example, some featured snippets, their page itself is actually ranking #9, but yet they appear as a featured snippet, and only 0.05% of all featured snippets rank #9.
Okay, it's interesting because that looks like almost exactly like the chart for click-through rates based on position.
Yes. Yeah, I think there is a lot of correlation there. Yes. But you know, one thing speaking about click-through rates is, again, though, they are probably getting a lot of click-through rates just because they are featured here as a snippet. Though on the other hand, too, sometimes a featured snippet can actually take away potential traffic from your site. That is possible because Google is trying to answer more questions directly from the SERP. That does sometimes happen. Like, for example, on a page like this, I don't think that is really going to happen so much. I think people are going to want to know more, but there are some times when a featured snippet may actually then take away traffic. So I guess that's a realistic thing to consider too. But I think for the most part, I would try to get as much exposure in featured snippets as you can. Okay, so how can we take advantage and prepare our website for the expanded SERP? One thing is we want to create rich location-specific knowledge about the business for the maps as well, like your operating hours, your what payments maybe you receive, and then that obviously that only applies to local businesses. If you don't have a local business, if you don't have a storefront where you want people coming in, ignore that. The other way is generate and respond to reviews. Reviews continues to be really a hot topic. And I know recently, right now, because of the COVID thing, Google is not being as quick to approve reviews. And so I've had actually some clients tell us that some reviews aren't showing up. My recommendation is to keep asking for reviews, keep having them submit them. Yes, it's possible that they are being massively delayed, and they might take a few weeks to appear, maybe months, I don't know, but don't stop that strategy. Reviews is still very important. Ask people to do reviews, especially on your Google page. Connect your inventory. There are different ways you can connect your inventory now with social media sites even. And use schema markup. We'll take a look at that in another slide here. basically schema.org provides some structured data for you to tell search engines. This is something that's not visible to your end users, but it is visible to search engines, and it tells them in using some specific structured data, or some like a standardized data about what your website is about what your business is about like how your opening hours, or how many ratings you have, your reviews. You can actually include that in there. What kind of products you have, and the schema markup, you can test it. If you use WordPress, there are some great plugins available that are very easy to use. In fact, you may be surprised about how easy they are to set up. There are 2 WordPress plugins right here that you could do. And by the way, too, I forgot to mention something. I'd like to share these slides with you. And so what we're going to do is, after this meeting here, we're going to go ahead and email them to you. You don't have to go to a page to download them anymore, as you did in the past for us. Now we'll just go ahead and send them to you. And they'll be coming. Don't worry about that. Okay, so when you do add some schema markup, here is a way to test that. And you can kind of see, like for example, on a very particular product here in the schema, you can put things like the price, the type of currency, whether it's in stock or stuff. And this actually helps communicate to the search engines the really kind of machine to machine communication. Again, this is not for users. They won't see the schema markup at all, but take this schema markup and the information that it provides and display that on the SERP. I think my internet connection was a little slow there again, but are there any questions about schema markup?
One thing I'll note, just having worked pretty extensively in using JSON schema, is you want to make sure that you're not marking up anything on the page that isn't actually there. Sometimes it's easy to go overboard with your markup because you want to include everything. But if you are putting a lot of data into your schema that's not actually visible on the page, Google does catch on to that and you will be penalized. So make sure that if you are using that markup, that only information that's available on that page.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Janelle, for that comment. I really agree with you a lot. Don't try to fake it, or you're not trying to fake it. Maybe sometimes it's an innocent mistake, but yes, it's a great recommendation. Thank you. In fact, for a beginner, I would just say for a beginner, all you have to do is just get one of these plugins and just fill out the data, and it'll appear in like your home page only. And it's just about like your business. I mean, that's a good start. And then later, as you get more detailed, more experience, you can start doing things on inner pages and products.
Yeah, and definitely run your pages through that structured data testing tool after you've deployed any of those plugins for WordPress. I found some of them are outdated, as Google's continually updating their structured data testing tools to what they require, what they don't require. And you just want to make sure you're not throwing any errors, because that will cause issues for you. Warnings are okay, errors are not okay in the structured data testing tool.
Excellent. Yes, I agree. Thank you. I like this other participation too. So anyone is always welcome to add in their comments and provide clarification. I don't actually claim to know everything about SEO by any means, so I welcome feedback and other opinions as well. Okay, so featured snippets are there are 4, at least when the last time I looked at this, there were 4 types, and it has been a while since I actually updated this slide too. But basically there are four types of featured snippets: a paragraph, lists, tables, and YouTube snippets. So the paragraph is kind of like just what we see here in this example. When you're like looking for a recipe, it just may tell you to do this. Again, this is kind of one of those cases where featured snippets may actually decrease traffic to your website, because some people may get the answer that they need right from the featured snippet. This is actually, it's an interesting thing. If you get a featured snippet, you can watch to see if this really affects your traffic. Or on the other hand, like in the case of HubSpot, if it ranks you above some other other high organic ranking pages, it may be extremely beneficial. So,
sorry, are you referring
yes.
to the quick answers as paragraphs? Is that what you were saying?
Yes, and maybe I'm
Okay.
using the wrong terminology for that.
No, I was just wondering if
Okay.
that is what we're referring to. So when you're getting those quick answers, like if you're using, like when people just type in those questions, that's just a paragraph, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
Right. You're welcome. Okay, so one way to modify the content of your page, this slide is probably a little bit hard to see. I apologize for that. But what we need, so what's going on here is that this page was featured in a featured snippet. And one way that they did it is by actually modifying the HTML to really accommodate this, because Google loves lists and clean code is very helpful. Clean code is always recommended in any case, but especially for getting in featured snippets, it can provide you some opportunities there. So what they did here, they had an ordered list, and then what they did with the LI, in the first item in the LI, which stands for list item, is the H3 here, is the heading. So Ahrefs SEO keyword tool. So this is it right here. And then within the same LI tag, they added paragraph tags. So what I'm pointing out here, this might be applicable to only people who understand HTML, but sometimes an LI list is just, or an OL or UL list, like a list, is just the LI items itself, and there's no other HTML markup within there. And that is fine too. But technically, it is possible to embed other tags within an LI tag. So you have the H3, the paragraph tag. So you have like an image, we have a paragraph tag, we have an image, we have a paragraph, several images, all embedded, nestled, or maybe within the LI tag. And then that LI tag itself is within a greater OL list or ordered list. And then so we have like 1, Ahrefs SEO keyword tool, 2, Google Search Console, top SEO tool, and so forth. And this actually is also a strategy for getting featured in the snippets. I believe they did this page just for the purpose of getting in the snippets. Otherwise, it's not really, maybe might not be that user-friendly to code a page like that. Okay, so here are a few additional resources on user snippets, or sorry, featured snippets. And again, you can have these links when we send them out. Okay, so now getting to a slide here that I really like. The question is so what really matters here? And this actually is a recent post by Brian Dean from Backlinko. It was, he published this in April 28th. And what they did is they analyzed 11 million, well, I think I said billion before, I guess I was wrong, 11 million search results. And they found some stuff that I think is really interesting. I personally benefited from this. I personally found this interesting, and I was taking notes as I read this. And so I want to share this with you because I think there's some really cool things from this slide here. What I did here is I copied in, this is basically his exact, from his webpage here. So this slide and the next slide is screenshot, or not screenshots, it's basically the actual text, but I just highlighted in yellow. So the yellow highlight is what I put into this. And these were just a few items that I wanted to mention to you because I thought they were so interesting. So first of all, number 2 there is that, pages with lots of backlinks rank above pages that don't have as many backlinks. In fact, the number 1 result in Google has an average of 3.8 times more backlinks than positions number 2 through 10. So this is something that a lot of people may be familiar with, but it just confirms. It confirms what some recent SEO experts have been saying. It confirms that backlinks really important. That makes a big difference. There's a strong correlation there between the number 1 search result and the number of backlinks. Maybe in another webinar, we can have a conversation about a backlink campaign and how to specifically do that, because that would be a whole webinar in itself. Number 3, comprehensive content with a high content grade significantly outperformed content that didn't cover a topic in depth. Okay, so this goes back to what I was saying earlier about the old strategy of SEO used to be, hey, just write, 1 or 2 blog posts a week, just pump them out, get them out. 300 words is fine. Just do it. The more you can talk about your subject, your keyword, the better. And when I say more, I'm talking about more the quantity of posts too and all that. It is that's not the way it works these days. So if that is your strategy, you should change it. And instead, you should adopt a strategy that doesn't focus on quantity of posts, but quality of posts, and maybe even making like just 1 per quarter, something realistic to you, 1 per quarter that is very high quality content, that it covers it's a long page and it covers the content in depth. There's this correlation between higher rankings and that. Number 4, we found no correlation between page loading speed and first page Google rankings. Now this actually was something that I was like, oh, okay, well, there's so much talk these days about page loading speed and how important that is. And I do believe that page loading speed is important for your users. And we definitely want to give the user the best user experience we can. However, statistically speaking, there does not seem to be any correlation between page loading speed and first page Google rankings. So if you have a limited marketing budget and you have to make a decision on page loading speed versus something else, such as creating like an amazing content page, you might want to choose the amazing content page. Number 8, we discovered that word count was evenly distributed among the top 10 results. The average Google first page result contains 1,447 words. So there it is. Again, I just going back from the old way of SEO, the strategy used to be just write at least like a 300-word blog post. No, don't do that anymore. Stop writing just these really short posts and instead focus on something awesome, amazing, even if you can do it just once a year. Number 9, HTML page size does not have any correlation with rankings. So what this means is like, images do slow down page speed. It kind of relates to that in a little bit. But don't worry about how big your page size is. In fact, actually, what I am recommending is make a long page, make it awesome. Include images, include infographics, include stock art, include icons. Stock art, when I say that too, there is some debate about that. Use realistic looking stock art if you want, but there is an opportunity there. Make your page awesome. Don't worry about how heavy it is. And in fact, maybe it's a sacrifice worth taking. Number 10, we found a very slight correlation between URL length and rankings. Specifically, short URLs tend to have a slight ranking advantage over long URLs. What this means is that just when you're making your blog posts, just make them short. Like for example, even like some of these past ones here, like this is a great example of a very short URL, backlinko.com, search engine ranking. He could have put something like, how do our study of search engine rankings, or how to, or basically here's a summary of our key findings for search engine rankings, but he did because he's basically practicing that short URL topic. Okay, our number 11, and here's another one too that caught me by surprise. Our data shows that use of schema markup does not correlate with higher rankings. So what do I do with this information? It's similar to the page speed size. It's that, yes, page speed is important because user experience is important. And yes, schema markup is important because it provides more opportunities, or perhaps easier, it allows you to get easier access into like a snippet, a featured snippet on the SERP. But it should not be confused though that page speed and schema markup will correlate with higher rankings itself. Unfortunately, the data seems to suggest that it doesn't. So something to keep in mind, I guess. I mean, you think about all these different options, and you certainly do, as a digital marketer, you certainly do have options. Number 12.
But it does affect the click-through rates.
Okay.
But
yeah, I agree with that. That's a good point. Yeah, it could affect the click-through rates. Yes. However, since you talked about click-through rates, let me mention something about that too. Click-through rates is very important, and we want to try to keep people on. We want to, first of all, get them to click on our link, and then we want to try to keep them on the page as long as possible. So yeah, thank you for actually bringing this up. You actually reminded me of this really important thing that Google does when they're creating their algorithms or when they're ranking websites, is that basically they're gathering data from what their users are already doing. Let me give, for an example, if you're like a Google will, when like there's a brand new web page, it may, using its algorithm, it may then rank it at number 6 based on its initial data. But one important factor that is going on then is that Google is going to actually watch to see when people click on that, do they just jump back right away or do they stay on the page? And then if they do stay on the page, if people do click on that, like if it was ranked 6, but then they're finding, but it's getting more clicks, more than number 5 was, and in fact, it's getting more time on the site than number 5 was, Google will actually increase that ranking above number 5 then, or experiment, do further experiments to confirm that. So this experience that Google is recording does also have an impact on that. So that's what that comment made me remind me about that. Oh, and actually, you know what? This is number 12 here. This is actually exactly what I'm talking about. Websites with above average time on site tend to rank higher in Google. This is exactly what I'm talking about. So I guess I could have just read further. But basically, having good keywords, having good backlinks, this all is a factor in your ranking. But another factor too that Google does look at is really just what the experience of their users are. Did they rank it right? They're trying to confirm their own algorithms based on the way people stay on your site and the way in the click-through rate. So try to make, so I guess in other words, as part of your SEO strategy is just making the design of your page look cool, very readable and attractive, and that captures people's attention. That should be part of your SEO strategy.
I had a quick question about
Sure.
that page authority comment. I think it's number 7.
Oh yes,
Have other people here found that to be true as well? Because I think I use like Moz's toolbar thing to look at like, all right, what's my domain authority, and then what's my page authority on the page. But so it's a metric I've been using, but if I just wanted to see if other people in this audience had the same feeling to back that up.
Yeah, so what I found with the page authority is the higher your page authority, the more likely you are to have backlinks. Someone like Moz or Ahrefs that's how they're going to really determine your page authority. And as we found, content is king and backlinks are second to that. So if you have that increased page authority and it's due to the fact that you have more backlinks, then it does correlate with higher rankings. But if it's because, sometimes Moz awards you page authority and it doesn't explain why, if it's not related to backlinks, then that's where I find there's no correlation.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Janelle.
That's a great answer. Thank you.
Yeah, and actually, you know what, Shiro, since you asked, let me go back and point out number 1 as well. Our data shows that a site's overall link authority strongly correlates with higher rankings. So versus page authority, my interpretation of this data is that the overall domain rating, the domain authority, is going to be more significant than the individual page authority.
I've seen some of the results which are having low domain authority, but still they are ranking. Maybe because of relevancy, I can say. Because the page was more relevant to the query, and it was ranking better than those domain which are having like more than 50 domain authority. So that's what I have seen.
Great. Thank you, Atul. Appreciate that. Okay, so now here is just one particular technique, or I wouldn't maybe, I'm not sure if it's necessarily a technique, but I want to give some credit to Neil Patel for just talking about this in his page on SEO strategies. So he talks about EAT, the acronym for expertise, authority, and trustworthiness. And basically, there is something going on in Google and Facebook Twitter and all that stuff that people need to be aware of, and that is that Google they're trying to make decisions on which authorities can be trusted. Now, this is a hot debate right now in some circles. It is true. I mean, Google is definitely, in these other, Facebook and YouTube and Twitter, they're making decisions on who's a person speaking with authority, who is not, what's a trustworthy of something, what's not. And this is a very difficult thing to understand. Google is attempting to do this. And I'm talking specifically about the coronavirus pandemic right now. And there's so much information going on right now that in Google and these other giants, social media giants, are very much involved in trying to figure out who is trustworthy and who's not. And that it actually could influence some of the exposure that a website is getting. So this is something to be aware of. And so what I do with this information, my response to this knowledge is to basically do what Neil Patel is talking about, where you have to become an expert in your field, or you need to present yourself as an authority, as a trustworthy source. This is really important. This is something that you could do he suggests by doing some guest posts, by speaking at conferences, and by or applying for awards and recognition. So these are just 3 examples. And then what he also suggests too is on the bottom of your page, have on every page you write, have a little bio. So this picture here, this screenshot is representative of his little bio that is on every page that he writes. So we have a picture of him and writes about who he is and why he's important. And this is something that you can do to try to increase your authority. And I think in a future webinar, we're going to do one on brand marketing, individual brand marketing. We've done one on business brand marketing, but I also want to talk a little bit about individual brand marketing in a future one. And we're going to talk about how strategies you can take to increase your rating, I guess, or exposure as an authoritative figure, as a trustworthy figure in this, because this is becoming more and more of a reality. And actually, I think that it's going to only increase this trend. I think that Google and these other giants are going to only get into this more and more, whether we like it or not. They're making this decision. So we do need to try to make sure that we are represented as an authority figure in our area.
Did you find with that latest algorithm update that it was really built around this? I know with Medic, we found that it really affected, and the expertise, authority, trustworthiness, but the latest algorithm update, have you found that as well?
To be honest, I would welcome someone else from this group to answer that one. I haven't studied that enough to comment on that. What have you found? Or go ahead, anyone else?
I'm sorry, do you have an answer for that?
No, I don't. Go ahead, Dan.
No, the person that asked it, did she want to give her opinion? I didn't want to interrupt her.
Well, I found that it's affecting similar sites that Medic affected, so those life services sites. But the difference is with Medic, it was slower to respond, whereas with this one, that I'm seeing a quicker response rate in having that expertise, authority, and trustworthiness focus on your site. But it's so early since this new algorithm update's been pushed. It's hard to tell where the effects are going to fall.
Okay. So my question was around the URL authority, because one belief that we have as SEOs, it seems, is that pushing up page authority or URL authority can improve the quality of that link. If it's an off-site page linked to your website, basically I'm talking about tier 2 linking. So with that URL authority and page authority comment that he made, how do you think that impacts tier 2 linking? Pushing that page authority on a site that has a high domain authority to increase the value of that link.
And maybe if you should choose between, if you're trying to increase the page authority versus the domain authority.
Well, yeah, you're always kind of weighing that. So tier 1 linking is effective, we know that, but how much time and effort should you put into tier 2 linking if that URL authority does not seem to have much value? You know, I wonder how that translates into the value of the link that is coming from a site that has a high domain authority, but the page that you're getting the link from is a very low, you know, page authority. I'm wondering, you know, it doesn't seem like the study really addressed that, but I just thought that was, you know, an interesting thing to consider. Because I'm always balancing, do I get tier 1 links? Do I invest more in tier 2 linking? And it takes so much time to see the impact of tier 2 linking if you try to do it naturally at all. And there's so many moving parts, it's hard to really attribute an increased rankings to tier 2 linking. You guys do any of that?
No, I don't have a good answer for you at this point for that. This is a great question, Dan, and I appreciate you asking that. Someone else is welcome to take that one. Okay. All right. So we are coming up to the end of our time, and we're almost done here. I just wanted to say real quick that there are things to keep aware of in the future, and maybe we'll do another webinar on this further. But voice searches are becoming very popular. They're becoming more and more. There is a very good study by Brian Dean on some of the voice search results, and so that's worth checking out. Visual search has gotten really good, and so basically, it's funny, but like right before, I just wanted to test this out myself just to see recently, because I haven't really tested it recently. So before this meeting, I actually took a picture. I found something on my desk. This is just something I had sitting on my desk. I took a picture of it. This is from my cell phone. I took a picture of it, and then just using the Google search from just the normal Google app, I did a search for that, and it recognized what it was, and it brought back all these results. It recognized it was Canon photo paper plus glossy. This is something that I still need to kind of think about more and kind of maybe develop a strategy on this, but it is becoming, I think that this is something that in the future, we might see more and more of this. People will be just walking around and take a picture of something and then search for it from their picture. No words, nothing else, just the picture. Products that they're walking in the grocery store. And so there's some implications for this, and that might be the subject of a future webinar. We also have more people relying on chatbots. We talked about the big data debate continues about what big data is available. And in regards to this too, we have GDPR and California Consumer Privacy Act, and even more now. I'm in Colorado, and Colorado has released a Consumer Privacy Act now that apparently is even stricter than the California one. And we did give a webinar on that a few months ago and went really well. Maybe we'll redo that one later on. It's becoming more important for people to consider. Accessibility is very important, and more lawsuits are becoming available for or happening for violations of accessibility. And then lastly, it's easier to find copyright violations in these days too, and more lawsuits are coming for that. And this, I actually just added this line in here just this week, because just this week I had a client who was contacted by an artist in Germany who said, hey, you used my artwork on your blog post here without permission. You now owe me this money. And it's not enough for you to just simply delete that image from your website. No, you already used it, so you owe me money now for what you already did. So this just happened. And I want to make sure that everyone is aware that be really careful with that, because it's becoming easier to find copyright violations. And then that could put you at risk if you're using artwork or imagery that you don't have copyright for. Okay, and then here are some additional resources, basically to those guys who I was talking about earlier. And that is really it. Would anyone, we don't have much time. I can take maybe just like 1 or 2 questions before we go. Would anyone like to ask something? Okay. Well,
Ryan, real quick,
sure. Go ahead, Brian.
Will this recording be made available to the group?
Yes, I will. I'll send that out to the group too. Yes, indeed. Yeah.
This has been great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I really appreciate all of you for coming. And this has been really fun for us. And we're going to do more and more of this. So keep following us. And thank you very much and have a great day. Bye, everyone.
Very much.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.